Squads rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tinker Time, an FPL pod, the show for every fantasy Premier League manager who's already second-guessing their 11th draft. It's Thursday, November 2025, and whether you're finally locked into your Gameweek 11 draft or just here to scout some differentials, you've come to the right place. I'm Matt, alongside Jim, and we're here to help you tweak, test, and yes, tinker your way to the top of your mini-leagues. We'll break down the best value picks, fixture trends, and hidden gems, so you don't have to stare at your squad screen in despair. So let's pop the hood, crack open the spreadsheet, and get tinkering. Jim, welcome back. How the hell are you?
I am doing well. I'm down off my week 9 high, but I'm still feeling pretty good. Confident in my team moving forward. How about you?
Let me just say, we are officially working harder than the government. They're still not open. So, shout out to us. Little props.
Can you believe that?
Man, the audacity, those public servants, not really much of a servant. Anyway.
Some people are relying on government contract money for lots of things.
Yeah. Anyway.
What are your thoughts on the military-industrial complex?
The military-industrial complex is a complex industrial military concept. No, but in all seriousness, tough game week for me personally. I was happy to see game week 10 go. There was a lot of buildup, I would say, into game week 10's transfer window. I was even texting you, I think, right up until the transfer window, thinking about a few moves I was thinking about making. Ultimately, decided to roll.
Late window closure.
Late window closure didn't really work in my favor, I will say. I paid the price. My Voltamade captaincy move did not pay off. I overthought that one. We'll go through it, but all in all, not. I know. Not my best game week.
Things are not doing not
my best game week. But yeah, so we don't want to spend a ton of time as this is the game week 11 deadline ep. But we did want to just really quickly just do a quick little recap of player of the week. So game week 10 player of the week, none other than Brighton midfielder Diego Gomez Amarilla. I believe that's Spanish for yellow. And it was all yellow. That reminds me of someone we knew in college. Remember? She used to listen to that song. Man, she hated that song. 16 points, 2 goals, 1 clean sheet. Let's move on. 16 points, 2 goals, 1 clean sheet, 8 DEFCON, 3 bonus points in only 80 minutes. Kind of showing off there. Didn't need the full 90.
Shouldn't he be Amarillo?
Well, I think that's it's 2025 and we're almost into 2026.
That's so true. We got to cut that. Let's cut that.
No, you know what? We should not cut. We should not run away from our transgressions and our mistakes. We should learn from them. Our listeners should learn we are not perfect and we are not incapable of making mistakes. That's really what we're here for. We want everyone to be better than they were the week before. So, in fact, it is Diego Gomez Amarilla.
There you go.
And that is that. And you just offended a lot of people.
Biggest flops of the week. I think you already said it. Voltamade. A lot of people brought him in. He had his blank. And then Brandon Buemo coming off a goal the week prior. I think he was the number 1 transfer in this for the week. He also blanked. So tough for there. I don't know if they were really captaincy picks. Well, I guess you did captain Voltamade. I'm not sure how many people captained Buemo, but
yeah,
United did not get the points where we thought they would.
Yeah. No, I know a lot of folks moved João Pedro out. They brought Voltamade in. Ultimately, João Pedro actually did score. So he rewarded folks who hung on to him. Voltamade only played 45 minutes, too. So it wasn't even that he blanked, but it was that he came off. I got to be honest. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. I don't know. I mean, it's so early on in the season to think that Newcastle or maybe prioritizing the midweek European competitions instead of table position in the Premier League. I don't know. I mean, that is maybe something that's entering Eddie Howe's mind, but it was a very interesting decision to see him come off uh, after 45 minutes, considering the opponent and considering the score line. But yeah, Voltemade blanking definitely hurt, and it hurt me even more considering he was my captain. And yeah, like you said, Mbomo, considering all the hype around him, all the returns he had been having, a lot of folks had transferred him in. Not to say that long term he's not still a great asset, but I think just considering all the hype he had, not the start. I think that a lot of managers who maybe brought him in were hoping that he would have, considering who they were playing. But long term, I think you can still feel good about him. But just for a single game week, definitely a flop.
I missed everything you said about Newcastle. There's the world's biggest spiders crawled across my foot as we're
Oh my
recording.
god,
So
keepers creepers.
that could have been the end of the
Um,
podcast.
well, if it was, we had a good run. We had a really good run, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah.
Rounding out the rest of the team of the week. So, team of the week this week scored 125 points. We mentioned Gomez, midfielder for Brighton with 16 points. Keeper, Bernlano with 7 points over at Fulham. Gabriel, Arsenal defender with 12 points. Mark Gahey with 10 points. Andy Robertson, old familiar friend,
Good for him
8
getting back
points.
on the score sheet.
Good for him. Ryan Sessegnon with 14 points, midfielder. Reclassified midfielder, former defender. That's an interesting one. Declan Rice, man who shall not be named nor discussed, cannot be denied. 13 points, Arsenal defender. Casemiro with 12 points for United. Ryan Gravenberch with 11 points for Liverpool. Erling Haaland, who restarted his goal campaign with 13 points. And João Pedro with a 9-point return. So if you started all of these players, you would have had 125 points. Good for you. You are better than all of us if you had all of these players. If you had none of them, better luck next week.
And an affordable squad. You could definitely have gotten everybody in.
Yeah. Great point.
How about you? What'd you score?
All right. So this week, I had a tough week. I did not beat the average. I only scored 56 points. In my biggest miss, honestly, was really just the Voltemade captaincy. So I had Nick Pope, who gave me 3 points as my keeper. Van de Ven gave me 2. Mark Gahey gave me a 10-pointer. Joe Rodon gave me 1. Mo Salah really actually came through and kind of saved, I think, my score for the week with a 10-pointer. Mohamed Kudus gave me a point. Pedro Neto gave me 3. Semenyo blanked with a 2-pointer. Holland gave me a 13-pointer, and João Pedro gave me 9 points. And Voltemade gave me 2 on a captaincy, which really means he gave me 1 point. Left a few points on my bench, but nothing worth really mentioning. So yeah, really, really tough week. I got cute with the Voltemade captaincy. It backfired.
Yeah.
Not much more I can say there.
Shooter's gonna shoot.
Good luck next week.
Well, I did beat you this week, so kudos to me. I came in with 57 points, so one point higher. Petrovic and goal with 2. I also had Roden and Van de Ven with 1 and 2 points respectively. I did go with the captain on Timber, so he got me 12 points there. Yeah, not happy with how that turned out. I thought Arsenal defense was going to score, and Gabriel did. It just wasn't the Timber points I was looking for. On the flip side, I was going to have captain Holland, or not Holland, Aka if I didn't go Timber, so I would have made out worse. Not the best, but not the worst, because they did get the clean sheet, and I think we're kind of banking on that moving forward. Midfield, I had Caicedo got me 10 points, Buemo 2, Kudus 1, and Saka 3. And then up top, Holland 13, Mateta 9, who I brought in for the week. And then Shesko with 2, who I also brought in as a last-minute move. So, not great. I guess if I captain Holland, I probably would have beat the average or hit the average. So, not a terrible week. Didn't really make up any ground. in the league, but didn't fall behind. Actually, I
Yeah.
think I did. I think Black Lab passed me by 2 points or so.
Yeah. It's it happens. I think we both did though beat Lord Tinkerton, which is really what matters. Even with his most solid captaincy, which he really nailed. So
He's not giving up
his
on it.
he's not giving up on it. So he started Sanchez in keeper, got a 6 pointer there, so he beat us there. Pedro Porro, Tarkowski, Mukiele, so he got really nothing from his back line, where we both got some pretty decent contributions from at least one player in our back line. He went big on the midfield, so he started 5 midfielders. He got returns from Bruno Fernandez and Mo Salah with his captaincy, but otherwise he blanked with Kudus and Semenyo like I did, and he blanked with Doku. Evan Nilsson did come back from injury to grab a point, which is a little concerning for managers who may have been riding that Krupi Jr. train. And then he also has João Pedro in his squads. Unfortunately, he did leave Chris Richards on his bench. So it was interesting that the AI kind of decided to start Evan Nilsson over Chris Richards, because if they went Richards, he would have at least tied our scores for the week
Right.
with 57. But they decided not to. Thanks AI for making the wrong decision.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. All in all, though, as far as the table, how it's shaping out, not a ton of movement. Blue Paradise still sits atop. 82-point week. Very nice. Not to be outdone by Matt Wannett. Space City Strikers an 82-point week as well. Moving up to second place. Nice job, Matt. Let's see who else. Not a ton of movement. Maybe 1 or 2 spots here or there. But all in all, pretty nice game week.
82 points. That's jealous.
82 points, and he's a wild card.
Triple Arsenal defense.
Yeah, that's yeah. We haven't spent a ton of time talking about. I feel like a lot of folks have used their wild card at this point. Just knowing that they're going to get their 5 transfers now, in game week 15. So to use your wild card now, it makes sense to use it now, because otherwise you're going to get those transfers. You're basically getting another wild card in 4 weeks.
Yeah, but this allows him to save those transfers. He doesn't have to use them right away.
True. All right. I think that maybe closes the book on game week 10. What do you think? Anything else from game week 10?
No. Some midweek game European action we could talk as it comes up with the matches this weekend. But
who's a PN?
All right, want to look at the fixtures this weekend? Who you like? I think there's a really nice early game on Saturday.
Yeah, so just real quick, running through the slate. So Spurs play Man United in the early fixture on Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. We got a nice Everton plays Fulham, West Ham and Burnley in the 10 o'clock Eastern slot on Saturday, before Sunderland plays Arsenal at 12:30. And then to wrap up Saturday, Chelsea are playing Wolves at 2 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, we start the day with Villa playing Bournemouth at 9 o'clock Eastern, and Brentford and Newcastle, and Palace and Brighton, Forest and Leeds, all in that 9 o'clock time slot, before wrapping up the day with the highlight fixture of the weekend, Man City playing Liverpool at 11:30 Eastern. So we've got a jam-packed day on Sunday. So to answer your question, I'm very excited Spurs have the early fixture on Sunday. That'll basically, set the tone for the rest of the day.
Saturday.
As really the whole weekend. But I don't know. What are you thinking here as far as this slate? What really stands out to you thus far?
I think this is a good weekend for fantasy assets. I think Spurs United, I think there'll be goals on both sides. I'd say avoid defenders there. I think West Ham, I think this could be a game that Bowen goes off, beats up on Burnley, maybe. And obviously Arsenal at Sunderland. It's just another game that you want as many Arsenal defenders in as you can get.
It's a battle of top 4 right there, right?
But even Chelsea Wolves, any Chelsea assets you have, you got to feel confident there. Wolves are just giving away points. So that's maybe West Ham and Burnley is a toss up. You only have Bowen there, but the Arsenal, Sunderland, and Chelsea Wolves match if you could triple up, I would think you'd want to there
Do
for all
I
teams.
do I dare say that this could be a week worthwhile free hitting,
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I might do that now
right?
that you bring that up.
Right? I mean, I could definitely see the argument for triple Arsenal, triple Chelsea. I could honestly see with that Newcastle fixture against Brentford, I could see folks maybe trying to grab Voltamade, maybe a Nick Pope. So that's 3, 6, 7, 8 of your 11
And then Palace
first team
hosting
players.
Brighton.
Palace hosting Brighton.
You gotta love defenders and Saar or Mateta there. So yeah, I
Right.
think it'd be a great week for free hit.
Add in Holland because why not? This might not be the worst free hit week just off the bat, just off the rip. But I don't obviously have a draft of what that would look like budget wise and whatnot. But that's just my initial reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure that a lot of one-sided games, at
yeah.
least on paper.
And speaking of free hit, we should mention because I think it was our last episode we were kind of talking about the chance of some fixture rescheduling around game week 16 related to Palace and Arsenal, some double game weeks and some blanks in game week 17. We did get some confirmation and news that that fixture it will be rescheduled towards I believe the end of December, which would result in no double game week and no blank game week. So game week 16, game week 17 for Arsenal and Palace, Everton, and I'm forgetting the other team that was a part of that conversation, but they will all still be single game weeks. So any sort of planning you might have had to double up or triple up to try to plan for a double game week or for a blank game week, I don't feel like you're going to need to worry about that at this point in time. I believe our sources are pretty strong. The one and only Ben Crellin. Shout out to Ben Crellin if you've ever followed him. He's kind of a guru. I don't know. Have you heard anything different?
No, and I think they did finally confirm that Boxing Day was only going to be one match as well, which is a shame.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, we're in the first week of November here, so we're still talking about 6 or 7 weeks out before some of those fixtures would actually be played. We're only about 4 game weeks out, 5 game weeks out, but obviously we have another little international break after game week 11, I believe. So that's why we always say try to plan, but not too far out because sometimes these things change. All right. Now that being said, should we maybe go through some captaincy picks? What do you think? Okay. Why don't you go first? I'll let you grab your first pick.
I might double down on Arsenal defense. So I mean, like I said, I have Timber, and he didn't score last week, but the clean sheet and goal scoring threat is just unbelievable. I might double down on Timber. I also am contemplating bringing Gabriel in, but it's tough because he's so highly owned. So at this point, when I'm that far behind, do I take the chance and bring Saliba in just for the differential, or am I already covered with that with Timber?
Let's take a look at that. Saliba right now is owned by, let's take a look, just to compare. So Saliba right now is owned by 11.6% of managers, whereas Gabriel, to your point, is owned right now by 42% of managers. So that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
However, Gabriel has scored 80 points. Saliba has only scored 38. So that is also, twice as many points.
That's true.
I mean, the ownership is pretty warranted. Now, in your squad, you've got Timber, scored 66 points, and he's owned by 25%. So kind of in the middle there.
Proportional.
Price-wise, though, you have the funds in the bank. I remember you telling me you've got plenty of money to throw around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Gabriel's
I
priced
guess
at 6.6.
not to make this
Saliba's
all
6.1.
to make this all about me, but I think Arsenal defender, if you have Gabriel, I think it's worth taking a shot. And even if you have Timber or Saliba, the clean sheet threat is always there.
Yeah. That's where my head initially went. I think the fixture looks very good on paper. Nothing against Sunderland. They've had a great start to the campaign. I don't even want to say they've overachieved because when you earn a result in the Premier League, you earn it, right? Week in, week out, you got to show up and play the full 90. And the points they have right now, they definitely have earned. So I don't want to take anything away from them, but I think Arsenal right now, this is not your traditional 1 versus 4. I think Arsenal are head and shoulders above Sunderland right now in terms of talent, in terms of coaching, in terms of just what they're bringing to the field. I would expect Arsenal to, handle them pretty comfortably. So I would expect a clean sheet. I would expect, probably a set piece goal because that's kind of what they do. I would expect Gabriel to be involved in that. So
They,
yeah, I think you can feel pretty comfortable.
they have 8 clean sheets in a row in all comps. That's unbelievable.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Yeah, that's hard to ignore, and you can't overlook that. Obviously, you're playing the differential game. I mean, for someone like myself who is just coming off of basically doing that and getting burned in my Voltimate captaincy, I might want to go back to kind of the set it and forget it and go with Holland, which I think will also be
Mhm.
a pretty popular captaincy pick this week, even though they're playing Liverpool. Because we said it, right? I think if you look at, again, City's goal scoring this season, it's basically a one man show. Holland is scoring 95% of their goals, if not higher. So if City are scoring, that means it's going through Holland in some way, shape, or form. There's always that train of thought to say, hey, I'm just going to go with the masses and I'm going to captain, who a lot of other managers are probably going to captain, and I'm going to try to get my points in other places, and I'm just going to try to, go with the flow, if you will, on captaincy. So there's two trains of thought. I don't know. What do you think for this game week? I mean, when you think about those two approaches, what do you think is probably a safer pick for this week?
Can I give you my safer pick? That's
Yeah,
nobody I think
you can say
Mateta.
whatever the hell you want.
I think Mateta is a safer pick than Holland this week. Liverpool's
Interesting.
Liverpool haven't kept clean sheets and they haven't been great defensively, but they're still a good team and it's gonna be a tough game. They're gonna play up to City, I would imagine. Palace they're in great form. They've had a great run. Mateta did miss a penalty today, but then had an assist. So I think he is the safer captain pick this week. He might not be as flashy. I know he was another one that was really highly transferred in last week, but I don't know. Home against Brighton, I think that's a good fixture for a captain. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm just
think
taking a
I
look
don't think
at.
Holland's a bad pick. Yeah, I don't know. I might almost feel safer with Mateta.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm just looking at Mateta's point history. So he had 9 points last week against Brentford. He had his goal. He had his. It's interesting that they like track clean sheets for forwards because like, what's the point? But he blanked against Arsenal. Hit that 17-pointer against Bournemouth with that hat trick. But then a couple of blanks, and he had a goal against West Ham. So yeah, like Mateta, he's been in excellent form. A 9.3 on Fantasy Premier League's form tracker. But like you mentioned, right, he did miss that penalty. So yeah, I mean that
He's
is
not
an
gonna lose them
interesting
though.
thought. No, I agree with you. I can't see him losing them just from one miss. I don't think that's enough for him to actually lose his spot. So that's an interesting pick. I don't think that would have been on my radar at all.
Well, you gotta get your radar fixed.
You're crazy. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Maybe we could get into a couple of differentials. What do you think? All right, let me
What do you
bring
got?
up a few here. Cool. As always, just for some context, so we're calling differentials anyone under 10% total ownership. Again, these numbers, we pulled them a little bit earlier in the day, so there might be some movement since we pulled them. But we'll start with keepers. Okay, so the one and only Dean Henderson, priced at 5 mil, owned by 7.6% of managers. You just mentioned it, right? They're playing Brighton. We've loved Palace defense all season. I think he's a great pick.
Mhm.
Matt Sells, Sean Dyche got for us playing some defense again. Priced at 4.8, getting him at a little bit of a discount. From earlier in the season, owned by 9.4%. So I think a lot of managers moved on from him once Ange, came in and basically told them to stop playing defense. And I think that could be a player that, you know, as Sean makes them play defense, you could see maybe a little bit return back to some of the defensive capabilities that Nuno was tapping into last season. So that could be a player too.
Didn't
And
play today
then,
though.
no, not so much. But, midweek prem, a little bit different sometimes. Thirdly, I'm gonna take a shot at this. Mamardashvili, 4.3 mil keeper for Liverpool, only owned
Okay.
by 0.9% of managers. So basically, nobody's owning him.
That's a
Allison's backup.
that's a
Um,
bad
you know,
pick.
bad pick this week in terms of clean sheet, but I think opportunity for saves. There are going to be some shots this week.
Yeah.
Also, take a look at Liverpool's long-term fixtures. If you're looking to load up on Liverpool assets and you're trying to consider, maybe you don't love the Salah pick or you're priced out of Salah, you don't really love any of the other Liverpool defenders, take a
Ooh,
look at
Mama mia.
Mama there. They've got a really nice fixture run over the next, I think, almost 8 or 9 game weeks, all the way through game week 20. So he might be a player that you could target on the cheap. 4.3 mil really clears up a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, Tottenham, Spurs, Leeds, Fulham. That's a hell of a run. I guess it
sometimes
depends
you got to
on.
have a little faith in me, man.
Yeah, I guess it depends how long Allison's going to be out for, though. Because you hate to bring a keeper in and then have to transfer him out. That's
Yeah.
the worst.
What is the latest on Allison? I'm curious. Why is he not showing up?
Is he under Becker?
Oh, that's right. Muscle injury with an unknown return date in the Premier League app. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what FOTMob says. And hip injury expected to return late November 2025. It's tough to say.
I've never
How much faith do you put in
my hip
FOTMob?
injury.
I don't know. Hip, I've got awful hips.
I'm hip. I'm cool.
Hip, hip hop, hippopotamus. I don't know. It's tough to say. Hasn't been spotted on the training pitch anywhere. Granted, he's a keeper, so it's not like he's got to really build up match fitness per se.
It's not like Marmar Deshaw really is lighting it up.
No,
Like his
that
job's
is
in
true.
jeopardy.
That is true. So yeah, it's a little bit of a gamble, but at 4.3 mil, at 0.9% ownership.
Yeah, I guess if you're wild carding, or is he gonna get at AFCON now? What's his nationality?
That's a good question. Giorgio Mamardashvili is from Georgia.
Huh. Maybe that's why he was
So he
named Georgie.
loves beaches. Yeah. Worst case, like you said, even if you brought him in on like a wild card, you could always pretty easily downgrade to Dubravka right now.
Yeah, true.
Who's still priced at 4 mil somehow. I guess no one's bringing him in. Everyone already had him. And he hasn't really been like great,
And people don't want to move on keepers.
Yeah. All right, moving on to defenders. So we've got 3 defenders here. Our first one, we got Reece James, priced at 5.5 mil, owned by 8.2%. Milenkovic, 5.2 mil, owned by 3.9%. And the one and only, again, Chris Richards, 4.5 mil, only owned by 3.3%. Jim, I feel like we've been saying it for a few weeks now. Chris Richards, insert any basically, Palace defender there. More of the same. Milenkovic, I think, again, the same argument that we made for Sells. And Reece James is nice to see him kind of. It's interesting to see him on a differentials list because I think, again, just for years he's been one of those premium defenders that's been, lighting up the score sheets when he's healthy.
When he's healthy is the key, though.
Yeah. Chelsea's fixture run.
They still look good.
And
so does Palace. So I'm in with James and I'm in with Richards. Milenkovic, I'm still a wait and see.
Yeah.
Not sold there.
Yeah.
Both of those love the differential with Richards too. 3.3 is
pretty good. All right, moving on. So we got our midfielders here. Yeah. So our first mid we have here is Minta over at Brighton, priced at 6 mil.
You didn't want to say his first name.
No, because I don't have it in front of me.
I believe it's
Jonas. What do we got here? Is it Yankuba? I think it's Yankuba. That's what it is. Yeah, Yank. We'll call him Yank. Yank Minta. Still owned by 4. Well, now that I've got his name in front of me, I can give you the exact. Owned by 4.5% of managers. So that still hasn't moved since earlier today. Mateus Cunha, 7.9 mil, owned by 4.4% of managers. Jacob Murphy, 6.1 mil, owned by 1.1% of managers.
Go away. Yeah.
Let me talk about them a little bit out of order. So I want to talk about Murphy first. Newcastle this summer, basically they kind of spent the Isak money before Isak was actually sold. But if we think about who they brought in, so they brought in Voltemade, they brought in Alanga, They brought in Vissa, and wasn't there one other player they bought? I'm trying to remember. Not important. But essentially, right, Alanga
What's his
has
name
played,
from Villa?
well, yes, Jacob
Jacob
Ramsey.
Murphy? Not, yeah.
Ramsey. Vissa hasn't been healthy, hasn't played. Had that injury. Useless. No return. Ramsey, I think, is also injured right now. Hasn't really been able to, have any meaningful impact. Another waste of money. Alanga has played 16 games for Newcastle this season. If my sources are correct, he has no goals and no assists.
He hasn't played 16 full games.
Well, he has featured in 16 games. So that's 16 chances for him to have an attacking return. This is a guy you went out and spent money for. This is a guy that you went out and he was supposed to, if you're going to go out and spend the money, he should be the person, who should be returning for you. I might be making the case. I mean, Jacob Murphy, every time he goes out there, he seems to nab an assist or a goal.
Yeah.
I could easily see him starting to kind of chip away and eat at some of those minutes. We talked a lot about him at the end of last season, and he wasn't essential at the end of last season, but he made his way into a lot of managers' teams because he just, again, you couldn't not notice what he was doing. It was hard to look away. If he continues to kind of do what he's doing, he's going to get into that conversation again, I feel like. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, even with the price, it's like, how could you not
Right.
take a chance on it? If you're going to go for a Newcastle asset, it's probably still Voltamade 1, but then Murphy's probably the only other midfielder you're bringing in at the moment.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I think
I
with
mean,
Newcastle,
we've just been wrong about him all season.
yeah,
We
I
and that
still
we
don't.
can admit that we've been wrong.
We can say that. This. I think this episode, if there's a theme of this episode, it's about admitting our mistakes. Sometimes we're wrong. We're right a lot of times. A lot of times we're right. Let's talk about Minta for a second because I feel like Minta
I
in
don't want to talk
Cuba.
about it.
No. We should. Let's talk about him for a sec, okay? Because I feel like he's really flown under the radar because he plays at Brighton. And if you look at his returns, okay, so last week he had a 9-pointer against Leeds. It's Leeds, right? But he had 2 assists and a clean sheet. Brighton had a nice week against Leeds. I'm going to read you his point totals on the season, okay? 3 points in game week 1, 2 in game week 2, 4 points against City, 6 against Bournemouth, 9 against Spurs, 5 against Chelsea, 2 and 2 in game week 7 and 8, 5 against United, 9 against Leeds. So in 10 game weeks, he has blanked 1, 2, 3 times. In 70% of the weeks, he has not blanked. That is a phenomenal return rate for a midfielder who is priced at $6 million and only owned by 4.5%. Nailed for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
1 goal, 5 assists on the season.
Hey, the numbers are there. I'm not gonna argue the numbers. You're correct in what you just read. I don't think Brighton passed the sniff test for me. They've had too many goals coming through Danny Welbeck, who we know this is what happens. He scores a bunch of goals in quick succession. Everybody's looking good, and then it all kind of fizzles out, and everybody goes quiet. He is 1 goal, 5 assists. What happens if Welbeck doesn't put all those away? Which personally, I don't have faith in him to continue at that. Yeah,
Danny Welbeck's getting looked at by Tuchel to be called up to the England squad.
Yeah. To play against Andorra.
You are just offensive tonight. What do you think our Andorra fans are going to say when you hear that?
Andorrese fans?
Oh my God. Yeah.
He's a pass for me. Are you really looking at those numbers? You're like, man, I should bring him in, or you just want to sound smart in the fact that you want to like say, yeah, I got credit for reading those numbers, but nobody's actually going to bring him in, right?
Well, here's my take. I have been looking for someone who I can move off of Kudus because I don't love what Kudus has been giving me. I feel like he's been very up and down. He's either giving me 10 points or he's giving me a blank. If I look at Kudus returns, he actually has the same exact stat line. He's got, that same 1 goal, 5 assists, but he has blanked in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's actually blanked in 70% of the game weeks. It's actually the opposite, right? So, and he's 0.5 mil more expensive than Minta. So for me, right, like Minta could be somebody that, hey, I can get the same level of production if anything, probably more consistent, and I can save $500,000, that could be a player I could look to target.
You're not answering my question. Are you really
What's your
considering
question?
bringing him? Would you really consider bringing him in? Do you
He's
see
on
him
my
in your
radar.
squad at any point this season?
I to be very honest, I was considering him last week. He was a player that I was not mentioning to you. Yes, I swear. No, I swear. I
Sure,
at one
for
point
sure.
I had a draft with Minta and Danny Welbeck that I texted you about Welbeck, and then he scored. I should. It's too bad our viewers can't see our text exchange because our pod would
It's
probably get
probably a good
canceled.
thing. Probably a good
Yeah,
thing.
but I forget exactly the wording of the text. It was basically like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me," because it was right after I said to you, I think the text I sent you was, "Are we overlooking Danny Welbeck?" And you said no, and then not
And I
4
still don't
minutes
think.
later did he score.
I think we're poised for him to fall off.
Mhm.
Let's revisit this in game week 14. We'll see how many points Welbeck gets us
Yeah.
between now and then.
Well, speaking of differentials, because again, the context we set was under 10% ownership.
We
Danny
spent much
Welbeck
time talking.
Danny Welbeck does
Right.
fall into that bucket. So Danny Welbeck at 6.5 mil, owned by 8.3% of managers. Thiago over at Brentford, 6.2 mil, owned by 8.4% on penalties. And Jared Bowen, 7.7 mil, only owned by 7.6% of managers. Those are the three, I think, at this point, we've said it all along. You've got Holland. You've probably, at this point, you're looking at João Pedro and or Voltemade. And then you've got one of these forwards. I think, in other weeks, maybe you were looking at an Evan Nilsson. Maybe you were looking at a Krupi Jr., if you were really looking to, get on that train. But with Evan Nilsson coming back, and I think that ship has sailed. It's probably one of these three. You hate Welbeck. I don't know what he did to you, but you really hate him.
He's a
So,
gunner.
former gunner,
Yeah.
you know.
I just I don't like him. Out of these three, I think Bowen is probably the highest chance of a big haul, especially this week going up against Burnley. But Thiago also, I mean, they have a pretty good run coming up too. They have a couple difficult ones mixed in, but if you have some coverage in there, I think Brentford aren't bad. Obviously they have Newcastle this week, then Brighton, Burnley, Arsenal, Spurs, then Leeds, City, Wolves gets through middle of December. So
Yeah.
they do have some matches there that you would feel pretty confident in them in at least scoring. We're not talking about winning all these games, but from an FPL perspective, he's looked pretty good. And at his price point, if you're getting off of João Pedro, or looking for an alternate to Voltemade, I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I even mentioned Thiago too. I think I'm trying to remember all the players that I texted you about right at the deadline.
Basically, everybody
Uh,
who scored, we talked
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Rice.
It was
You almost had
late.
Rice too.
Yeah, it was late Friday night, and I said I'm really thinking about Declan Rice. I think it was. Am I crazy to bring in Declan Rice? What did you say? Did you say yes?
No, I said not at all.
That son of a bitch. You know the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are those differentials for the week. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, these are players. They could be hot. They could be steamy. They could be thick. They could be really really good. Sometimes that's the best part.
Like a nice, warm, comforting hug.
Sometimes you got to mention the best part. Like a nice hot bowl of lobster bisque.
Well, it's funny you should say that because this episode is actually brought to you by Lobster Bisque. Creamy, decadent, and just fancy enough to make you feel like you should be reimbursed for it. Whether you're dining at a fine establishment like Monk's or secretly on a date you're calling a business lunch, Lobster Bisque is a soup that says, I'm important. It's rich, it's smooth. It's the kind of soup that makes you lean back in your chair and whisper, oh, this is the good life. Sure, it's not cheap, but can you really put a price on status? Well, apparently you can, and it's coming out of your paycheck. So treat yourself to today at brolobster.com and use code TINKER for 50% off your next bowl. That's brolobster.com, code TINKER. Lobster Bisque, because you're not just eating soup, you're making a statement. Back to the pod.
All right. So we had a great response from our audience after last week's episode with our mailbox segment that we wanted to bring it back this week.
It's full again.
It's full. I mean, my God, stamps are so expensive these days. But, you can't beat the old pen and paper, I guess. So why don't we try to get through as many as we can, and we'll see where the wind takes us. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right.
First
So
one
the
we got
first one
here.
we got here
Whoa.
from who
We
is
have
the
an echo.
what is the user? uh, I'm trying to look at the username we've got here. Booty Freak 22. Okay. Can we safely drop Saka for Rice? I'm assuming they're talking Declan, not Brown. All right. What do you think about this one, Jimbo?
I think it's a good move. I mean, looking at total points for the season, Rice is way ahead of Saka. Although we did have those, little injury spell there. He just has not been scoring from open goals, from open play. All their goals are coming from defense, and Rice is on corners. He's on free kicks. It's almost as like, as a Saka owner, it's painful to see all those points going elsewhere when you're 3 or 4 million above everybody that's getting those points. The money's just being wasted. He's not guaranteed for penalties. I think we've seen, a share of those, even though sometimes it's who's on the pitch at the time. Yeah, I think it's personally, I would like to. I would have to take a hit to do it, but I also want to double up on the defense. So I can't bring Rice in without dropping Saka. Personally, I would do it if I had the transfers available to me.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of
Yeah.
people will do it once they get the AFCON transfers, I would imagine.
Yeah. I know this question, there's so much, I guess there's so many conditions to this question that it makes it hard to just give a very straight yes or no. Is it safe? Because to your point, right? Do you have the money in the bank? Are you looking for the funds? How many Arsenal players do you even have in your squad in the first place?
Right.
I guess where my head
It's very
initially
team dependent.
went, if you've got 3 players today, and let's say you've got 2 defenders and Saka, and you were looking to move from Saka to Rice with 2 defenders, I would be comfortable doing that. I think if you have a defender, Saka, and say Gyökeres, I don't know if I would be as comfortable doing that. The reason I say that, I just feel like Gyökeres has been a little less consistent, whereas I feel like the Arsenal defense has been extremely consistent this season, and I feel like you could take a little bit more risk. Now, granted, if you look at Rice's numbers this season, I mean, I'm just going to try to bring it up. I mean, if I look at, let's see,
I think he's only blanked
midfielders.
once.
Well, so on the season, Rice is the second highest scoring midfielder in the entire game. So you can't really say that Rice is even that risky of a pick
Right.
because I mean, look at his point total. He's up there with Semenyo, Caicedo, Bomo. He scored more than Mo Salah, right? So like the argument, I mean, he scored more than Saka. So yeah, I mean, if you're just going off point total, Saka to Rice it's a safe move. It's the logical move. It's actually the correct move. But for all the reasons you just said, right? Like penalties, all those, kind of historical reasons why you would keep Saka, it's worth having a conversation. But
Yeah.
I think I'm looking at Rice myself. So
Yeah. Same.
yeah. Good question. All right, moving on to we got this question from Big Booty Judy 23. Turkey versus Foden. Who else from City will deliver? This is an interesting one. So I think the background of this, the impetus, if you will. So Ryan Jerky came back from injury. Was it last week? Was it 2 game weeks now? I forget if he came back midweek, but I think he's had an assist in the last couple of games he's featured in.
So versus Bournemouth last weekend, he had 2 assists. And
Okay, that's what it was.
Foden had an assist as well. And then in the midweek, Foden had 2 goals and Cherky had a goal himself. So yeah, I think the question is, are we finally seeing Foden contribute and maybe another midfielder? Or I don't even know. It's tricky.
Yes, he's a midfielder. Yeah.
So are we finally getting another option for City that will deliver and take some pressure off of Holland? I don't think you would ever drop Holland to bring one of these guys in, but I don't know. As a past Foden owner and one that's been burned by a captain pick, I don't know if I'd bring him back.
Yeah.
It would be
Yeah,
nice. It would be nice if that was an option because they're both affordable,
true.
but we just haven't seen the consistency enough. But I guess this question is probably trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, he's only priced at 6.3 mil, which historically for a City midfielder is an excellent entry point price wise. I
It's
don't
like
know
Gundogan
though.
pricing.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, it's that year Gundogan was like an offensive player, which I don't know. I feel like he wasn't, and then all of a sudden he just started scoring goals left and right. I forget which season that was, but yeah, I mean it's tough to say. Like as City get more healthy, that's just going to give Pep more options, and that kind of reintroduces the Pep roulette. That actually, I almost feel like makes selecting non-Holland City players more difficult. It almost definitely does. So the question of Shirky versus Foden and who else from City will deliver, I don't know. The healthier City gets, the more I want to steer away from everyone else not named Holland. I don't know.
I don't know. He was their big signing, right? So
One of them. One of them.
I think the expectations are now that he's back, I would assume he's getting minutes more consistently. I don't think he's going to take them from Foden, but I think he's not going to get benched over Oscar Bob. If I had to choose between the two, I'd probably choose Turkey just because Foden has been playing and has not contributed in FPL at all, except for last week after I dropped him.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Tricky would normally play on the right side. So I'm just trying to think of who that would really, kind of whose minutes that would really eat into. I don't know. This one might be like a wait and see. I mean, how
Yeah.
many minutes has he played the last couple of games? Let me double check. He's played 14 minutes against Villa and he played 72 minutes against Bournemouth. So, Pep's easing him back in. At least these are the Premier League minutes. I don't know if midweek he had any I don't know what he played midweek, but if he's going to be impacting, going to be having these goal contributions, goal involvements, I should say, he's going to get his minutes. To your point, he was a marquee signing for them in the summer.
Yeah, he played 11 versus Bournemouth with a goal. And then last week, midweek, he played 90 versus Swansea with a goal and an assist.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep some time.
Yeah.
I want you to read the next one because this next question submitted by Balls Deep 48. I mean, the pageantry in this one, I cannot express it. Only someone with your pedigree could really express it.
All right. The question is, there's a Starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and score for us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. I have to assume they're talking Ismail Yassar at Palace, who got the double today.
That was beautiful. No copyright, please.
Well, Bowie's dead, so I think it's fair game, right?
The music does not die.
Negative times negative is a positive.
So Sarr did score 2 goals today, but did come off. Glasner did, I think he was quoted after the match saying he came off just as a precaution. He said that earlier in the week he did have a little tightness in the hamstring, but it was extremely precautionary. So didn't come off for anything other than just to rest. So yeah, I mean, Sarr, he seems to score all of his goals in the midweek games, not on the weekend. He gets a lot of assists on the weekend, but phenomenal value. I don't know. What are Sarr's ownership right now? Let's double check. Let me take a look.
11.8. 6.6 mil. He hasn't been consistent as of late. He hasn't had more than 2 points since week 7. He also had a few blanks. But, I mean, we've been saying it. Their fixture run coming up is to die for. So, personally, I'm looking to bring in a midfielder. Kudus is flagged, so I want to move him out. So, Sarr has been on my radar, as well as Turkey. If I didn't want to bring in an Arsenal defender, I probably would definitely be bringing Sarr in this week. But I think he's a good pick, good value for the upcoming run. Do you have space in your squad for him?
I was also considering bringing in Sarr. So just to kind of peel the curtain back here for our listeners, one of the moves or one of the pairs of moves I was considering last week was to bring in Sarr and Mateta. I ultimately did not. So I have 2 transfers moving into this week, and we'll talk a little bit about that very shortly. Sarr could be a player that I look to bring in as well. Lots of options to replace Kudus. All right.
Good question.
Let's see. All right. I think we've got time for one more. All right. This one comes from Gluck Gluck 48. Time to cash in on Semenyo gains. That is a good question. Well, You never brought in Semenyo.
I did not. I brought in his little brother, Tavernier, who did not score at all.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe I can provide my
Maybe
take
you
on
take
this
this
one.
one.
So for context, Semenyo he's basically blanked in his last 3 game weeks. He started off super hot, but he has kind of fizzled with just an assist in his last 3 game weeks. I think he's gotten a little bit of DEF CON. I think he got it one time. Nope, take it back. Didn't even get that. So he's priced right now at 8.1 million. However, for sale purposes, from when I bought him, I would be selling him at 7.6 million, which is a pretty big gap considering, I don't know, that feels just that mechanic of the game I don't love. I wish they would simplify that and just
I thought you told me they got rid of that.
I thought they did too.
You definitely said it
Um
on this podcast.
I thought well,
Can you put your hand up as the theme of the day? Hand up, you were wrong.
hand up, I was wrong. I'm not sure if it's that I do think they changed it, but maybe it's not. Maybe I didn't fully understand the depth of change. Because when I bought him, so I think I brought him in game week. Let me see. I think I brought him in game week 2, and he was priced at 7.1, and he is now priced at 8.1, and I get to sell him at 7.6. So he has gone up
It's the same.
basically
He's going
an
up a mill.
entire.
You
He's
gain
gone up
half.
1.0, and yeah. So I
So it's the
think
same as
I'm
it was.
getting. Is that exactly what it was?
Yes, it's a 50% sell-on fee.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe I must be wrong. I can admit that. Hand up. What was the question again? But yeah, Gluck Gluck wanted to know if it was time to move on. So it's tough, right? If you look at Bournemouth as a whole, right, they've looked very good this season, right? They are playing good. Sorry, playing well. They've got Villa, then they move over to West Ham, then Sunderland, Everton, before Chelsea, United, and then they've got Burnley, Brentford, and then they've got a pretty tough run in weeks 19, 20, and 21 with Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs. And then we're not going to look past that. So, Bournemouth, their fixture run is there, right? You can make the argument just purely on fixture run that Semenyo is worth keeping in your squad. You can make the argument based on track record that, hey, here's what Semenyo is capable of returning when he's in form. Every player's, they're going to go through some peaks and valleys in the middle of a season. This might be a little bit of a low, a little bit of a dip. I'm looking at right now, who else would I possibly be bringing in the midfield? I think right now, with who I have in my midfield, so just for context, I have Semenyo, Pedro Neto, Josh King, Mo Salah, and Kudus. I'm not looking to move Pedro Neto. I'm not really looking to move Mo Salah because we talked about Liverpool's fixture run. So that would leave me with Semenyo, King, and Kudus. I would love to get Bomo in the squad here, if at all possible. We just talked about Ismail Yassar. I think he would be somebody I would like to bring in, if at all possible. Maybe a Minta. He could be somebody who is on my radar. I'm not full on sold on it just yet. We talked about Jacob Murphy as well as somebody. So these are players that, if I need to open up some funds, Semenyo could be the player because Kudus price at 6.5 is not going to get me there. I do have 0.6 mil in the bank, but I would really have to sell Semenyo. So it could be time just because that's what my squad would necessitate. So I think it's just going to depend.
Do you think, in general, Semenyo to Sarr is a good move? Because I would say, regardless of who your squad has, form and fixtures, I would think that would be a no-brainer before his price drops.
When you initially asked me the question, the first thought that popped in my head was no, only because of penalties, right? If you could
He's not on
afford
penalties.
Semenyo, he's not on penalties. You sure about that?
It's Kluivert.
Semenyo hasn't taken a single penalty all season. Can we confirm that?
According to the official FPL app, Kluivert, followed by Evan Nelson, followed by Semenyo.
Yeah, but I don't like looking at that. Hang on. I'm going to look at Bournemouth's thought mob results. So hang on. So let's go back and look at their Premier League fixtures, going all the way back to just looking here.
Trust me, I looked into this when I brought in Tavernier because I was looking for anything I could do to justify not having Semenyo.
Interesting. Semenyo took a penalty against Brighton, so that's in the 61st minute. And you said Kluivert's the guy who's supposed to take them?
Kluivert and Evan Nilsson.
Okay, so Evan Nilsson was on the pitch, didn't take the penalty. Kluivert was not on the pitch that game, so that's interesting. Kluivert came on in the 67th after Semenyo had taken the penalty, so Semenyo took that penalty. So I'm not arguing you for the sake of arguing you, but I thought Semenyo was taking penalties this season. Maybe they were just giving it to him because he was in the form that he was in. That's entirely possible.
But regardless, they've had one penalty, so
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It might be time. I
mean, I guess it comes down to if you've had him for that long, you can afford the price drop.
Yeah, I think also you can feel good about it. You can feel okay about it too because you know what you're moving to, right? If you're contemplating, hey, I want to move from Semenyo and I want to go to Declan Rice, or I want to go to Cody Gakpo, or I want to go to Ryan Gravenberch, or somebody else, or a Caicedo, right? Like these midfielders who have been very, very strong this season. I don't think that that's a bad move.
Yeah.
Sure, if you can grab that extra $500,000 in the bank, or whatever you've been able to bank, it's probably a good move at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I guess counterpoint. At this point, I'm assuming everybody has some funds in the bank, right? Everybody who's been scoring is not, apart from defenders, it's not the highest value picks. Right? It's not Palmer, it's not Bruno. So I'm assuming everybody has some value picks somewhere that they probably could afford holding on to Semenyo a little bit longer and see the price drop.
Right. And I would guess people probably don't have multiple premium defenders. They probably have like a Gabriel and maybe a Timber or a Calafiori. And then I bet a lot of folks have like a Rodin or a Van de Ven. So they've got like,
you have one.
I bet a lot of folks
you have one premium defender, maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think form and fixture run, I would say yes, drop him for somebody that you're more excited about. I think Sarr just stands out to me because he's on my radar. But then again, if you have Semenyo and you've had him for a while, you could probably hold him and not be too concerned about the price drop.
Good questions. I love the mailbag. It's fun.
Yeah, we should get more mail.
Send us in. Send it in. Full send. All right.
Should we move on to our squads?
I think so. Why don't we just grabbing the AI recommendation here. If you bear with me for just a moment, I'm just grabbing Lord Tinkerton's team here. Got to make sure I've got the right team from last week here. So last week, let's see, they made no transfers last week. You know what? Give me one sec. I want to make sure I'm in the right team ownership here. Okay. So last week, Tinkerton made no transfers. So he actually has 2 transfers in the bank. He's got 0.8 mil in the bank as well. So let's see what the AI recommends for Lord Tinkerton to do. It's approaching Gameweek 11 deadline. My FPL team consists of Sanchez, Dubravka, Richards, Tarkowski, Goodmanson, Porro, Mukiele, Semenyo, Doku, Sala, Kudus, Fernandez, João Pedro, Evan Nilsson, Chris Wood. Recommend up to 2 player transfers to make, if any, that is within budget. 0.8 mil in the bank. I also have the wildcard, free hit, bench boost, and triple captainships available. After making a recommendation, select a starting lineup, bench order, captain, and vice captain. And let's see what the AI is telling us to do. They are recommending no transfer this week. You gotta be kidding me.
Again?
The reasoning: you've got a decent squad core with strong mids and forwards. Doku, Salah, Kudus, Fernandez, João Pedro, Evan Nilsson, and Wood. With only 0.8 mil in the bank, making a move may force you into a marginal upgrade rather than a meaningful one. Better to preserve flexibility for a bigger move or to deploy a chip later. The previews for Game Week 11 highlight that your premium assets, Salah and Fernandez, remain good picks. If you don't see a standout upgrade that clearly improves your starting 11, holding the free transfer is sensible. If you were compelled to make a move, you would consider replacing one of your weaker defenders with a value defender who has good upcoming fixtures, but only if you find a starter you trust and the upgrade is clear. The starting lineup that we recommend: start Sanchez. I would agree with that. Bench Dubravka. Starting defenders would be Pedro Porro, Tarkowski, and Mukiele. Midfielders, starting 5. They're going with 5 midfielders again, with João Pedro and Evan Nilsson. Your bench order would be Richards, Goodmanson, and Wood. With Dubravka, it's the same lineup as last week. Mo Salah as your captain and Bruno Fernandes as your vice. That's incredible.
Dummies.
Man, I mean, you saw it live, folks. I mean, I entered the prompt.
Let's see how it works out for him.
We'll see how it works out for him. Yeah, I mean, this has been a fun little exercise, I have to say. I mean, how many points does Tink have right now on the season?
Adam is closing in on him. So he's at 479.
I mean, he's almost at 500 points. I mean, he's only within 100 points over 10 game weeks. I mean, you do the napkin math there. That's not that many point difference. I mean, that's only like a different basically
Within
every
100
week
points of
that he got wrong.
what? Not the leaders.
Like, well, of me, he's only within, what do you have? 20 points more than him? I'm saying just between you and I. Like, the competition between the three of us, at least, So, I don't know. It's been interesting. You want to do yours?
Yeah, so I think I'm definitely going to transfer out Reynildo and bring in Gabriel. I could do that with still 1.2 in the bank.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I am
That's
probably,
incredible.
I know, I'm probably going to move out Kudus and bring in Sar, but I'll have to take a hit for that. So that'll hurt.
Are you in hit mode already?
I've taken one hit already, but with his knock, it's like I have to. I don't want to start stock if I can avoid it.
Butterstock?
So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do Gabriel. You know what? Let me do that right now, so I don't.
That's smart. That's smart. That is
Gabriel
smart.
is in, and then I will probably move out Kudus for somebody, either Sar or Jerky. How about you?
I don't know. I mentioned it. I feel like I've already kind of mentioned a lot of the moves I'm considering. I'm not really looking to make any moves to my front line this week with João Pedro, Holland, and Baltimore. I'm probably going to start all three. João Pedro survives another week because they're playing Wolves. My back line this week, I'll probably start Van de Ven because I feel like he's been just in phenomenal form. I don't know if you saw he had like one of the best goals ever, I think, in the midweek. Did you happen to see that?
I think that was universally accepted as one of the best goals ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. By the way, I saw another angle of it. Like not reverse angle, but basically like where he's at his back. It's an incredible.
He's so fast.
Incredible angle. He's so fast. So I'm gonna start Van de Ven. I'm gonna start Mark Gahey, and then I'm probably leaning Joe Roden right now, just because I can't stomach starting Reynildo, and then Dorgu is a useless player for me. I'll start Nick Pope in my keeper, so that's 3-4-3. So I'll probably start Semenyo, Neto, Sala, and then that would leave me with Kudus. So I've got 2 transfers, 0.6 mil. I would like to move Kudus. I've thrown some names out there. I've thrown Minta. I've thrown Mbomo. I've thrown Sar. I'll even throw Declan Rice in there. I'm not opposed to maybe trying to get Gakpo in there. Line myself up for Liverpool's run. Gravenberch is actually, I know that name kind of sounds wild coming off the injury, but he's also been in great form when he's healthy. If you look at the midfielder point totals. So I've got to make some decision on Kudus. I'd love to do it in tandem, maybe with like a Dorgu, because I don't really have any use for him either. I'd love to find a way to get Gabriel in my squad. I don't see how I can do it. I don't have the funds for it.
I'll drop Salah.
I can't do it. The only way I could do it would be if I dropped João Pedro to like a Thiago, and I dropped Kudus to like a Declan. To like a who was I mentioning to you the other day that I said it was a little less expensive? I think it was like a. I'll have to double back and check. But there is a way for me to basically like take one hit, and I can get Gabriel in with the money I have in my bank. But I don't want to move João Pedro this week, because why would I move him coming off a goal against Wolves?
True.
And I'm really trying to avoid taking hits. I didn't take one hit at all last season.
That's no fun. You got to roll the dice.
I know. And it's early, so it's like I could probably find a way to make up the 4 points. So I might end up taking the hit, but I got to take a look because I also mentioned free hit. Free hit could be an option this week. I might figure out a way to do that. So, yeah. Yeah, so I got some decisions to make for sure. But captaincy wise, I'm definitely leaning Holland this week.
Yeah, I probably should just do that, but I know I won't. I might
Yeah.
I might go Arsenal defense now that I have Gabriel, or maybe even Saka or Mateta. Mateta's probably the safest pick.
You got to make some ground up. So I could see that. It's tough too because we're in a couple of leagues and it's like sometimes you're trying to make up ground in one league, but in other leagues you're trying to just kind of keep pace or even hold
Yeah.
position. And sometimes those kind of don't jive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. No one's gonna feel bad for us. All
Plenty
right,
of time
we
to
got a
tinker.
few minutes left here. We'll just get through it just real quick. Few players to keep in mind, price changes while we've been chatting here. So Mark Gahey is likely to increase before the deadline. Josh King is somehow likely to increase before the deadline. Crazy enough. Maybe something we don't know there.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Dubravka's well on his way. David Raya is well on his way. Ismail Assar, Calafiore, Zay, Petrovic, the keeper over for Bournemouth, on their way. Let's see who else. João Palhinha. Sorry, folks, he's not supposed to be scoring goals. Please don't fall into that trap. Gago mentioned.
Get ahead of it.
Brentford forward. Timber, Holland, Reece James, Chris Richards, Inta, Ryan Cherky. All players we've mentioned. They're all kind of on their way to a price rise within the next day or two. Now, I'm not saying that they definitely will rise, but they're on their ways. If you're thinking about bringing them in, think quick. And as far as price drops, just looking to see if there's anyone meaningful. James McAtee is going to drop. I know someone had messaged us or sent us a letter in the mailbox about James McAtee. We didn't unfortunately get around to it. Richarlison's going to drop. Udrick going to drop.
Udrick.
He's training to be a sprinter, I think, for the Olympics. I think I saw. Kind of makes sense. Jack Grealish on his way to drop. Pap Sarr. So yeah. Van Dijk on track to drop. So a few names. Gyökeres on track to drop in a couple of days. So yeah, a few names to note. Nobody we really discussed tonight though. So
yeah,
you might be safe between now and the deadline. That being said, deadline is Saturday morning. I don't know if we mentioned that at all. Saturday morning,
6 a.m. Eastern.
6 a.m. Eastern, 7:30. It's our first 7:30 game, I think, in a few weeks, right? Because we had a Friday fixture,
yeah,
and then we had no 7:30 fixture for I think a couple of game weeks. Yeah, don't forget to make that transfer. What else, Jim? Did we miss anything?
That's it. Last week before the international breaks.
Well, this one's been fun. As always, please do like us, subscribe, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Drop us a comment. Mailbox seems to be gaining some traction as far as segments go. So send us in your flaming hot, burning questions. Drop us a comment with your biggest surprise, captaincy picks, roast us. We love that shit. And as always, still not too late to join our mini league. We'll drop a code in our description. And thanks for joining us on Tinker Time. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, drop your captain picks in the comments. Until next week, happy tinkering.
Draft dreams rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad.